The UFC the last few days has just been confusing. It's just been an absolute I don't even know. We just didn't know what was going on. We didn't know if Conor was going to be fighting Chandler. We didn't know why their press conference got canceled. We didn't know why the UFC and Conor and Chandler were all being so quiet about this. Honestly, it got to the point for me where I just kind of assumed this was all a PR stunt. I mean, it seemed like one because everybody was on the edge of their seat wondering if this fight was going to happen or not. So to me, it made perfect sense. But it turns out Conor got injured right before the press conference. That's why that got canceled, and that is why now this fight is getting postponed. And honestly, I'm cool with that. Well, I mean, at the very least, all this could have been worse. People were making a lot of the fact that Conor has never pulled out of a fight before. And Conor himself has always made that, a huge part of his persona, and he would always talk about the fact that the second you sign that dotted line, you're showing up no matter what. In theory, that is pretty badass. But when you're showing up to that Poirier trilogy with a broken leg, there's a limit there, right? There's a limit. It is always super badass to find out, yeah, I came into this fight with an injury and I still won. Look at me. That's all fine and dandy. But when you're TJ Dillashaw showing up to that fight with Aljamain Sterling, with a complete bum shoulder that you knew was going to dislocate the second the fight started, why did you show up to that? At that point, you were just stealing money from the fans who came to watch a high-level mixed martial arts fight, not you flail around with a fucking spaghetti arm. You know what I mean? So, no doubt, let's push the fight back, let's get healthy, and let's try this again later. But the other big reason why I'm cool with all this is because we got another pretty good main event, which is Jiri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira 2. Now, we all know Magomed Ankalaev, he's the guy that deserves the next shot at 205, but he himself said he doesn't want to fight until December. Well, Pereira didn't like that. That is pretty freaking far away. So him and Jiri are stepping up to save this card, and that is just awesome. Nothing but respect to those two guys. But now, looking at this matchup, what exactly has changed? Because Alex Pereira finished Jiri in under 2 rounds the first fight, but not without some adversity. Jiri Prochazka definitely provides some very interesting challenges to someone like Pereira. And apart from Ankalaev, Jiri might be the most dangerous fight for Pereira in this weight class. I think the main reason for that is, as I discussed in my Jamal Hill versus Alex Pereira video, the thing that makes Pereira so absurdly dangerous is how much power he has with such short shots. If you are standing in front of him punching, you are in critical danger of getting dropped. Because he does not need some huge winding overhand to drop you. He will literally just extend his arm right from his hip, and all of a sudden your eyes are rolling to the back of your head. But what's so difficult about Jiri, and something that Alex Pereira did struggle with against him, is that because Jiri is so unorthodox, his punches come from all these weird angles, it's kind of difficult to set up a solid counter against him. His hands are down, he's feinting level changes to uppercuts and spinning elbows, and he's bobbing back and forth. The fact is, Alex Pereira has done thousands and thousands of rounds of sparring. His muscle memory is very tuned to a specific type of kickboxing style. And to have to adjust your game for a single fight for a single fighter that doesn't fight like any other fighter ever has fought, that can be very difficult to do. And mix in the fact that Jiri is huge. He is a very big 205. He looked bigger than Alex Pereira in the fight. And that was really highlighted when he picked him up with a high crotch and dumped him. But with that all being said, Jiri does have some fundamental weaknesses when it comes to this matchup. And the big one is, it is so insanely hard to finish Alex Pereira because he never overextends on punches. He never leaves himself open to get countered bad enough that you're going to finish him. The only time that's happened in the UFC was when Israel Adesanya set up the perfect trap after getting fucked up pretty bad. Adesanya said himself that he was in trouble, but he was going to use being in trouble to set Alex up. Look, that was a beautiful sequence by him. But other than that, to catch Pereira clean with a shot that he doesn't see coming, that is just so hard to do. But in the first fight, because Jiri is so big, so unorthodox, there were moments that he was able to back Pereira up to the fence. And that right there is his best chance of winning this fight. because pretty much every single time Jiri moved forward with a punch, even if it landed, Pereira was backing up, backing away, taking a lot of the brunt off the shot. But once he got Alex's back up against the fence, that is where his shots really opened up. But the absolute biggest issue Jiri was facing, his main problem with that fight was, yes, Pereira was having trouble connecting with him, but that leg kick was always there. Always. Jiri stands very bladed, and his only defense for Pereira's kick was to attempt to pull out. But there is very, very few people. Israel Adesanya was having a horrible time trying to time Pereira's leg kicks. It is so hard to defend against them effectively. So Jiri was just constantly getting closer to crisis mode every single leg kick. He was already hurt after the second one landed, and that was a 5-round fight. Jiri knew he had to go at some point. He could not sit here the entire 25 minutes and keep taking these kicks. So when he finally did land a decent shot, he went for broke. He knew he had to, and that, as I said, put him in danger for that short counter, and it dropped him right away. And at this point, based on what we've seen from Jiri's one and only fight after Pereira, which was against Rakic, well, he did look very good in that fight, but he hasn't made any fundamental changes to his game. So the fact of the matter is, not much has changed between this fight and the last one. So what exactly would Jiri's strategy be to win this fight? Well, I would say, for one, you gotta try to wrestle more. But that's tough because Jiri he is not a grappler. He is a striker. Him wrestling is him spending a lot of energy in areas he's not as fluid and he's not as comfortable. And Pereira off his back in that first Jiri fight was pretty impressive. He did such a good job using frames to block any ground and pound. Jiri was able to get a couple good elbows in, but for the most part, he had a tough time landing damage, and Alex was able to get back up. But even with that, the longer Jiri spends on top on the ground, the less amount of time he is getting calf kicked, and that is our primary thing we need to try to avoid. And the other tool is going to have to be, as I mentioned, you have to find a way to back Pereira up against the fence again. That is where he's going to have the absolute most success at landing damaging shots. But he needs to do this while maintaining distance, not getting too close, not overextending himself. He just simply cannot leave any room for Pereira to land any kind of short shot, no matter what. All while at the same time avoiding the calf kicks. I just do not know if he's capable of that. At the end of the day, what makes Jiri so exciting and what makes this fight so intriguing is that because he's so unorthodox, because he's so big and has so many first-round finishes, anything can happen. He can set up some weird, unorthodox shot that Pereira doesn't see coming, and he can finish him in one punch. That is 100% a plausible scenario for this fight. But Alex Pereira, at the end of the day, he's got a lot of advantages in this matchup. And the safe pick is always going to be Pereira by finish for this fight.